and welcome to the Toffees Victoria Show. I'm your host, Andy, and as always, we've got Nick and Tim. How are you, lads?
Hey, all good, mate.
Well, it's been a while since our last episode. We've been pretty busy, and also Everton's been pretty busy. So let's kick off with the transfer news. So the window's shut. Tim, did we pick anyone up?
I believe we got a young fella by the name of Josh King. Don't know too much about him. Unheralded, only 19, I believe. So obviously we got Josh King in the dying embers of the transfer window. So I mean, look, he was obviously touted to be part of us at the start of the season, and I wasn't overly enthused. His age was a factor. He's never really, set the world on fire. Having said that, now that we've signed him, particularly after what we watched on Saturday night, which I know we'll touch on later, but now that we've signed him and the way we've done the deal, it does feel a bit like we've learned from past mistakes. So he's 29. We probably are paying him a large wage. There were rumours that he wanted 120k a week, and that was turning a lot of clubs off. But even if we are paying him that's only guaranteed for the next 6 months. So we're not going to be stuck with this guy until he's 33. Like a Schneiderlin or a Walcott, or a Tucson or a Delph or a Sigurdsson, the list goes on. So, he does offer, he can play across the front three, so not only as a striker, but out wide. And he's got bags of pace, which is probably something that we're missing. So probably the type of player that can, pick up the ball and run at a tired defence or a defence that we're struggling to break down. So he just offers something a little different. And I guess also it gives us a bit of a plan B in that you could play two up top, and it's almost like the classic target man poacher, Dominic Calvert-Lewin flicking headers on to Josh King to run him behind onto.
And he actually had a decent record against us when we played Bournemouth, didn't he?
Well, Bournemouth has a decent record against us, even when they're playing for bloody Newcastle.
Yeah. But I do recall he scored a lot of goals against us.
And I know he hasn't set the world on fire in the championship, and I think I saw someone say it's 12 games, no goals, but I think he started 4 of those games, and some of them he only came on for like under 10 minutes. So he's obviously a bit out of favour there.
Which does cause immediate alarm bells in the sense that he doesn't seem like he could get into a championship side. I don't know by what the reason that is. That might just be a different style of play or whatever it might be. But
Carlo will sort him out, and Big Dunk.
Yeah, look, I don't think he's going to be, he's going to come in and bang in 15 goals or, provide 8 assists or be a match winner. But he certainly does offer us something that no one else in our squad really has, which is pace and a bit of dribbling ability. I think that Richarlison and Iwobi are always willing to sort of run at players, but neither of them is particularly quick. Whereas Josh King is very quick, like he is seriously quick. And that's something we don't have. We've looked one pace for quite a while. And I think, obviously the other pleasing thing was the outgoings. So, Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's really important for the likes of John Joe, Kenny and Benny Baningimi to go out on loan because it seems like their time is up at the club. I don't think John Joe Kenny ever looked like he was ever going to nail down apart from maybe a couple of years ago under, I think, Allardyce. I don't think he ever really kicked on from that, even though he did quite well at Schalke away.
Interestingly, he started this morning straight away for Celtic, straight into the starting lineup. So in a 4-0 win.
And, you'd kind of expect him to. He's definitely a Scottish Premier League kind of player.
Yeah. Particularly if you're playing for Celtic, which most other teams are not really going to bother you too much.
Yeah, and also they haven't really got much to lose this season either at the moment because they're pretty much done, finishing second. But yeah, so I think it's important for him to go out, and I don't think his career is going to continue at Everton, but it's good for him to go to a club like Celtic, get loads of minutes under his belt, play well, and then obviously forge a good career whenever he does move on, which you would imagine will be in the summer somewhere. Benny Beningimi had really high hopes for him. It just hasn't really worked out, and hopefully he can go and play under Wayne and do a decent job at Derby. Tosun's a bit of a weird one because prior to getting Josh King in, which seems like it was rushed at last minute, we got rid of all our strikers, and Tosun was kind of at least an option off the bench. And we know that Tosun's a decent finisher, albeit he's about as mobile as something that's not very mobile. So that's a bit of a weird one. And also he's going to he'll be back in the summer and, fighting for his place again. So it's a bit of a weird one not to get rid of him, but only on loan. And then Gordon.
Well, I guess maybe there were no takers.
You would imagine, especially on the
for
way.
Permanent.
And they've always wanted him.
Yeah.
Besiktas wouldn't be able to pay the wages that he's on, I would imagine. So I'm sure we're covering part, or at least part.
Well, if he can go there and bang in a few goals for them, it means at the end of the season they might go, okay, here's 10 million, we'll take him.
Yeah, we'll take him.
Which is the best we can hope for, really.
Essentially. And then the last one, I think, is Gordon. I think it was either Gordon or Bernard that was going to go somewhere. I think whatever's happened with Bernard's deal, I would imagine was probably first choice for him to go. And then when that collapsed, maybe we decided to let's go and send Gordon out on loan to get minutes for the next 6 months, and at least keep Bernard. I know that some of the windows are still open across the world, but I'd be very surprised if he lets both Gordon and Bernard go. And I think it would be really important for options off the bench to keep Bernard now that Gordon's gone on loan. So yeah, look, I think it's good to get rid of some of a bit of the dead wood. But yeah, I still think that we're potentially lacking up top. I know Josh King's come in, not entirely convinced, as you've alluded to, for the reasons why you've alluded to. But yeah, I think it's an okay window. I'd have liked to have seen another couple of players come through there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Brands historically doesn't do much business in January. But yeah, definitely, I think it would have been nice to see a few more come in, a few more incomings. But I think those outgoings are equally as important, because those guys were not getting minutes with us. So trying to ship them off at the end of the season permanently was going to be tough. At least if, as you say, if John Joe can go and put in a shift at Celtic, and if Toussaint can turn his career around back in Turkey, then it gives us the option to at least maybe spark some interest for them on a permanent basis in the summer window. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. I always get it's back to front seasons because we're in Australia. But yeah, and I just think, Josh King, if we had got him at the start of the season on 120k a week over 3 years or something, I would have said, just another. But 6 months, it's very low risk. If it doesn't work out, it's just cost us some wages this season, which we've probably made room for those wages by shipping off guys on loan anyway.
Definitely.
So it's low risk, potentially low reward, but it could go either way.
And you made a really good point about us potentially learning on past transfer dealings by just getting him in for 6 months to see how it goes out, even if we are paying slightly above on a weekly basis. I think if you look at deals for Nias and Tosin and a few other players, but those two are the ones that stick out the most. We've been stuck with them for 4 years, 3-4 years for the duration.
Too long.
And both of them were coming in relatively unknown and were almost surprising. Like, I don't think we'd ever heard of them when they signed. Even though we're familiar with Josh King, we know that he's maybe not that level to get us up into the top. Although Man United were touted to go for him a year ago, remember? He had injuries. Like that. It's not that inspiring. However, as you say, it's a low risk, potentially low reward. But let's see how he goes. 6 months in, I think it's probably a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, if he comes in and performs well and bangs in 10 goals, everyone will say Brands is a genius.
Yeah, there you go.
If he comes in and doesn't do much, then doesn't matter. He's gone at the end of the season anyway. And the other thing it does provide as well, for Josh King's psyche, we're not going to have guys like Delph or Sigurdsson who seem to just be there collecting their last paycheck and knowing doesn't matter if they don't perform because they can't go anyway because no one's going to pay them more. Whereas for Josh King, he has to perform for this next 6 months to get a contract either with us or with someone else. So there's that added desire, I guess, that may come to fruition as well.
And just a quick one before we move on, or actually, Andy, get your thoughts on it as well. I actually think, and I don't, obviously, we never know the ins and outs specifically about what's going on with a club, but if it was true that he could either have gone to us or Fulham for 6 months or a year, whatever it might be, I think coming to us does show a bit of ambition, because Fulham, he's going to go and play every single week.
Yes, that's right.
But hopefully he's at Everton to fight his way into the team. And not on the flip side of that, you could say he's coming to us to pick up a wage check and he doesn't mind sitting on the bench. That's another way of looking at it. I prefer to think,
and he probably wants to play with quality players like James and all that.
Challenge. He's come to put himself in the shop window in the summer. He's come to play Premier League football for a club the size of us. So we look at it that way, and I wish him all the best. I think he could be a good addition, and certainly the pace injection that we need. Andy, what do you think about the transfer window?
Oh yeah, I'll be quick, but yeah, I thought a great signing, 6 months. Why not? Let's just see what he does. No issues there, and happy to get these other players out on loan, help reduce the wage bill, and it's just wait and see how it all goes, I guess. And I guess we'll know more, especially when we hit that when the season's over and we hit that summer break over there, because I think there's going to be we're going to go through another. It'll probably be another tough one in signings, but I think as long as we get like 1 or 2 quality ones, not probably on the James level, maybe a Decore type level or an Allen, I think things will be looking up. But it's just depending on everything else as well.
I think we have so much deadwood in the squad. I think 2 things just to sort of make the transfer sound even a bit more positive, I guess, is that good luck trying to buy any striker knowing that they're going to come to the club and they're going to sit on the bench, because DCL's clear number 1.
Yeah.
So you can't. Good luck trying to sell your project to a player who's not, 18. So any player that's sort of reasonably established at their current club and saying, no, come to Everton. Yeah, you'll get games. I mean, players aren't silly. They'll know that DCL's number 1. And they're going to have to, hope he gets injured or hits a bad patch of form to overtake him. So Josh King was probably the best that we could hope for in that regard. And secondly, let's not forget, just in the transfers overall, how much deadwood we do still have at the club. And, Carlos signed on for another, I think, 3 seasons after this. And it is a project. He's not just going to fix everything in one window.
Exactly, yeah.
Say, from his signing, it was going to take 3 years for it to turn around. I think Brands maybe
exactly
that as well.
And just on that, I wanted to touch on an article. I don't know if you guys saw it, where I can't remember who it was. It was interviewing. It was Shearer was interviewing Koeman. Have you guys seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Is it recent?
And yes. I only saw it. I read about it today, and Koeman said that Everton was a very difficult club to manage because their supporters have unrealistic expectations.
Oh.
And Alan Shearer sort of pulled at that thread, and sort of went, well, hang on, what do you mean? And he was basically saying he couldn't have done any better. And this is a guy who we gave him 150 million to invest. He bought 3 number 10s, and it was just if you get a chance, look up the article. It'll infuriate you a little bit, but it is also kind of funny the way some of the things that Shearer points out back to the
expectations are too high. Oh my god.
I'm definitely going to check that out because I don't think I could ever see an interview between 2 people where I probably prefer Shearer as a person. So, that'll be interesting. And I won't get too hung up on it, but for Koeman to say that is a bit of a joke. Don't get me wrong. I think sometimes we do, as a fan base, we are demanding. I think I've said it a few times.
Sorry, go on. Go.
It's the club culture. We've still got a large chunk of our fan base that have grown up in the 60s and the 80s, where we were winning titles and trophies and things like that. And I think, I guess we get that message sort of put on us as well, that what we're seeing, even in our lifetime in the last 20 years, it just isn't good enough. So I think sometimes that is true, but also, yes, he was given 150 million and absolutely splashed it on nothing. So, yeah.
So, I've just brought up the article. So what he actually said was, as a fan base, we are living in the past, which makes us very difficult to manage because we have unrealistic expectations. And Shearer sort of pressed him on his time at the club, and he said, yeah, we spent a lot of money. We signed Jordan Pickford, Michael Keane, Gylfi Sigurdsson, and some more players. Now, those more players, as we know, are like Sandro Ramirez, Schneiderlin, Yannick Bolasie, Davy Klaassen, most of which are not even at the club anymore. And he said, my first season was a really good one. Lukaku scored 25 goals, and we had great home games against Manchester City, who we beat 4-0. We beat all the big ones, and it was great. And then the article goes on to highlight how little points we actually took out of the Big Six while Koeman was in charge. So he's just delusional.
Yeah.
strange character, Koeman. And I heard that, again, we're not on the inside, but I heard a lot of the club staff didn't get on with him. And and I think a few of the lads have said it before, the way he used to refer to Everton as opposed to us.
That's right. Yeah.
just didn't get the club, and I think that that sort of sums it up really. He doesn't get the culture, he doesn't get the club. We are quite in many ways. Yeah, I think sometimes our fans are over the top with criticism, and I'm guilty of it as well. Like I expect a certain.
Same here. Yeah.
When sometimes that's probably unfounded. I shouldn't have those expectations. The players are playing to the best of their ability. But anyway, Koeman, the less said about that guy, the better.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's that article's on the Liverpool Echo. So if you're watching the show, and you guys as well, have a look at it and have a bit of a giggle about how he thinks his time at Everton went.
Jeez. And with that, let's get on to the Newcastle game, I guess. Tim, how about we start with some positive news, as in we went to Kicks and we had a bit of a crowd.
Yeah, look, it was a really good turnout at Kicks. So thanks for everyone that rocked up. Unfortunately, the team, which we have no control over, delivered absolute dross on the field.
Somehow I felt a little bit of responsibility though. How bad's that? That's how much stuck into your brain. I felt responsible for all these, or like us as sort of the organisers.
Yeah.
We were responsible for not putting on a good show. But anyway.
I did have a bit of a chat to a few of the guys who were sort of new to coming to Kicks and watching the games, and a few of them said they enjoyed it and they'd be back. So I guess it's just imagining how much more they'd enjoy it when they were in a big non-social distancing celebration.
That's right.
Scored a goal. The atmosphere is definitely better anywhere when you're winning. And just a bit of a public service announcement as well. If anyone is coming to watch the games at Kicks and you want to bring your friends, please make sure they go for Everton. Because if not, it can cause some issues. And if they don't have to go for Everton, they just have to be respectful.
Fair enough.
But yeah, Nick, what did you think about the actual game?
Yeah, Nick, start us off.
I mean, it was terrible. From minute 1 to the last minute, Newcastle deserved to win. It was a great away performance from them. They defended really well. I can't even remember us having a decent effort on target. The midfield was absolutely abysmally slow. Richarlison, who's usually our main attacking threat, or at least one of our best players, is just going through a horrible time at the moment where he just can't, and nothing can go right for him at the moment. Calvert-Lewin, again, plenty of endeavour up front, but nothing came off for him, and he was very much isolated and didn't really have much support. And Newcastle nicked it in the end, didn't they? They got a corner. It was a great header by Callum Wilson.
Yeah,
very poor defending. Can't blame Pickford for that. It was nowhere near him. It was a great header. And then obviously the second goal, they hit us on the break when we were trying to push forward. But I can't really comment too much on individual performances. I don't think anyone stood out particularly well. The midfield in particular was just so static and slow, and I think that was probably the main reason why. Tim?
Yeah, look, not much else to add to that, really. Pretty ordinary performance. Instead of picking a player of the match, I'll probably pick the opposite, the worst player of the match. And it's a guy who probably, I think when we last did our first live show, when we last sort of talked up, we were in a good run of form then, and a few of us were talking about the sort of form that Sigurdsson had shown over that journey.
Yeah.
And then he serves up that, sorry, I have to swear here, that absolute shit against Newcastle. The shit that we're all sick of seeing, where he just stands there and points at everyone and lets players run past him. He doesn't know how to put a challenge in.
And gives the ball away.
How to defend.
Doesn't want He's telling everybody. He's like me when I try and play Aussie rules football. I tell everyone to kick the ball to someone else.
And I mean, this bloke's on.
Yeah, and it's just, you can't have that as a attacking midfield player not wanting the ball in the final third.
And a $50 million bloody signing, and he's probably on 150K a week or something, and he's never repaid that money ever in the whole time he's been with us. And the sooner he's out, the better. He's shit. I'm sorry, I'm sick of him. Particularly apologies to Ty, who is one of Siggy's biggest fans.
Sorry, Ty.
Sorry, mate.
But I think, we just lacked imagination. We lacked creativity. We lacked any real spark or drive in midfield. I think the formation that Ancelotti chose, I think, was wrong. I think he does have to take some blame for this loss. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying sack him or whatever.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
He just got it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he got it wrong, and he also got it wrong with the subs that he made.
Yeah,
like
they're
taking
very
off
odd.
Toby when it was clear that Sigurdsson was having an absolute mare.
Yeah.
You know, Davies and Decore, in my opinion, should have been starting in the midfield with Davies playing that Allen role because he's played that quite well over the last few weeks.
He has done well.
And then give license to Decore to run forward. You know, also a special mention to the ref. I'm not saying that this is the reason why we lost, certainly not. But I mean, John Joe Shelby does almost a fishhook tackle on James Rodriguez in the first 5 minutes and gets away with it. So then does studs into the shin, and in 5 minutes later gets his first yellow, which should have been his second, to be honest. And that ref, just by allowing that to happen, just basically declared open season on James, who never really got into the game after that because he was just getting hacked.
Yeah, they're absolutely bullies.
And on the header that Wilson scored, I don't know if you guys remember, I've sort of went back and watched it. He had the exact same open header in the first half at the exact same spot at the near post. Yeah. So it's not like we didn't have warning. So why they kept persisting with Richarlison not even really man marking him doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, we really, that was the type of game where, and I know I don't want to say that, you know, Josh King's the saviour, but it's a type of game where I feel like he could have come on and maybe made a difference to the way.
Yes, bring that quality off the bench.
Put the ball in the channel for him to chase and just get the ball up the pitch because we couldn't move it quick enough.
Yeah, so slow.
If you have him and Dom up top in a 4-4-2, then you know Newcastle is sitting deep with two banks of four. Like they played very well and very disciplined in that regard. Then you just bomb it long to Dom, and he's not so isolated because he's got a pacey striker next to him. It sort of creates room for both of them. So that's the type of game where someone like that would come in handy, I think. And you know, hopefully that's why we signed him. But yeah, all in all, pretty abysmal. And yeah, it's hard to. I mean, really, after I think we were a little bit lucky with the 1-1 draw with Leicester, but we had quite a few good games before that. And another thing I sort of took out of it as well, Coleman is done. I don't think he could be in the squad or on the pitch anymore. He was largely anonymous for that game, and Keane and Mina looked very uncertain not having Holgate or Godfrey on either side of them.
Yeah, agreed.
And I thought Godfrey was very unfortunate to be dropped because I think he's been one of our best players over the last 4 weeks.
Playing the four centre backs has actually served us fairly well. I guess the thinking behind it was that we're playing Newcastle at home and we should really go a bit more attacking. Which sometimes you kind of think, well, how about we play in a way that suits the players that we have available and that's been working for us over the last few weeks, no matter who the opposition is. Play that. Right, yeah. So, and you know, it's Newcastle at home. If we win 1-0, then great. So
yeah. And that's the thing. If we had set out like we have in previous weeks with, you know, even Holgate or Godfrey at right back instead of Coleman and Digne at left back, and it sort of becomes, you know, a back four out of possession, but a back three sort of in possession. Maybe with a Wobie on the right-hand side as that wing back, which he's done quite well. Then at least we would have been more defensively solid and maybe, you know, nicked a goal and the whole game's different. Then if Newcastle had scored a goal or it's still 0-0 at 60 or 70 minutes, then maybe make that change and go to two centre backs and bring on Coleman. But yeah, as I said, once again, I do think, Ancelotti does have to shoulder a little bit of blame for that poor performance because there was just not a lot of imagination in it, to be honest.
Yeah,
what do you think, Andy?
We all had fun at kicks, so that was good.
Yeah, we had a great time.
The kicks was good, and it was
big.
Once again, thanks to everyone who came down.
It didn't really hurt until the morning, to be honest. As in, like, I kind of thought at the time, yeah, okay, whatever. But yeah, in the morning, I woke up and thought that was dreadful. But also, my hangover didn't really help either. But
Andy, did you have anything to add to the?
That first half, I just thought they played more of the man than the actual getting the ball. They full on targeted James. Like they bullied him, and then once he was like really sore, that second half they just took over our midfield because he was knackered. And you know you don't get help when you got Sigurdsson there. But yeah, I think Gomez came on for a bit. He was okay, but he
looked all right when he came on.
That substitute with Iwobi, I've heard a few other podcasts talk about that. He might have been a bit injured and actually played with a bit of an injury. So
that makes sense.
So it's like, well, don't play him if he's, got a knock from the game before or something.
Yeah, and also bringing on like Gomez for Iwobi is hardly a like for like, and
Yeah. So
getting
there
Sigurdsson on at the same time.
had to be something sus, and so yeah, I kind of think that was what was happening with him.
Maybe the case.
Yeah, but yeah, what you're saying about Coleman, Tim, I agree. Just he's a bench player now, sad to say, but yeah, he just.
I honestly just don't even recall him doing really anything in that game. Like I don't recall once saying
He did
good tackle or good cross.
He did a 1-2 pass with Decore in the first half, but then the cross came to nothing. So
yeah,
that's one thing I remember. But other than that, yeah, you're right. There's nothing really. And yeah, definitely, there's no man of the match. It's just terrible.
Best of the worst.
Yeah, best of the worst. And it's just, now their fans can go, oh, we went back, we beat you twice in a season. It's oh, great, fantastic.
And as we were discussing pre-show, Crystal Palace go and do them 2-1 this morning. Just to make our result look even worse.
Yeah, it's just really just like, oh, Everton, why? And with that, let's have a break. And we're back. Second half, here we go. Let's talk Leeds. Nick, let's go. What are your thoughts on the upcoming game?
They play some really, really good football. I guess you don't really know what Leeds are going to turn up. They seem to get some really good results and some really poor results. And I think it was the cliche at the start of the season that they'll score goals. They'll also concede loads of goals as well. They've certainly got the attacking players to take us apart. Although we have looked pretty good defensively up until the Newcastle game. So yeah, look, I'm not majorly confident only because of what happened previously, and I think they've got some players that can hurt us. We've got obviously Allen is still out. Pickford is out as well, which could go in our favour. Maybe you never know. Not that I want our players to be injured, but maybe he needed some time out anyway. In my opinion, Bamford's doubtful as well for Leeds. Which could be a big boost for us because he's looked really good this season, has scored, similar season almost to Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the sense that he's started banging them in for fun when he hasn't really been too prolific previously. I really like that Rafinha drifting in off the right for them, who's a really good player. Other than that, I don't really have too much insight into their individual players. I just know that they're well organised and Bielsa's got them playing some really good football at times, really attractive football. But if we can zip the ball about a bit quicker, get the ball up to Dom a bit more, and perhaps have Josh King to come on in the second half to kill the game and inject a bit of pace, then we can certainly go there and do them. I don't see why not. Andy, what about you?
Yeah, pretty unsure, basically what team's going to go out there. But yeah, I'm not too confident, but I think I'll be happy with a draw because they're on a bit of a run and they play well at home. But yeah, I'm just, eager to see what happens. But yeah, after the Newcastle game, I'm kind of just sort of like, I just don't know anymore. It's just bizarre. Yeah, Tim?
Yeah, look, it's a tough one to predict. I mean, I think they've just beaten Leicester and Newcastle in their last two, whereas we've played those same two teams and gone draw-loss. Funny that you mentioned Rafinha, Nick, because he was the one who scored the winner when we played them at home earlier this season. And it was the first and only goal, I believe, since that he's scored for Leeds United.
Well, you know exactly what's going to happen, don't you?
From memory, it was a bit of a cracker as well. I think in that game, both keepers actually had to work really hard.
Both keepers
were basically the man of the match. So, it'll be interesting if the game is played out the same way in terms of that sort of end-to-end stuff. Then we might get a real look at whether Olsen is actually better than Pickford, as some people like to claim as fact rather than opinion. Not you two, obviously. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people claim that it's a fact that Olsen is better than Pickford, basing that off 4 games. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. It's, as you know, what Leeds turns up, which Everton turns up as well. does he go, knowing the threat that Leeds counter, does he go back to that sort of defensive setup again that earned us points against, some bigger or higher up the table clubs like Leicester? Look, it's impossible to predict, really. All I know is I'll get up at 6:15 tomorrow and in time for the 6:30 kickoff.
By 8:30.
Yeah, I'll either have a great day or I'll put on my out of office because I'm sad.
It's pretty much how it goes over here anyway. And yet, just to touch on the Pickford issue, I know we've discussed him a few times as well. I think that you can't say, we all know that Pickford has tremendous ability as a goalkeeper. I think everybody knows that as well. I just think psychologically, he needs some time away. I think from the hammering he's been getting from the fans, some deserved, some not. And I do think that Olsen, when he has been put into put in net, hasn't put a foot wrong. So I think it's time for Olsen maybe to have a run of not just the game here and there, but maybe 3 or 4 games just to see how we can do. And if Pickford's made of what I hope he's made of, it will help him to improve, as opposed to kick him when he's down. I think what Carlo's maybe been carefully trying to do is, when he has made the mistake, and let's be honest, he's been making mistakes pretty much every game, is he's said, okay, sit the next game out, and then you're back in the game after that, or just sticking with him and just keep and almost put him in the firing line, in my opinion. So I think maybe the injury, whatever he's got I think he's got a rib injury. Hopefully it's not too serious, but maybe it's come at an okay time for him just to take 2 or 3 weeks back, get back to full fitness, get his mind on the game, and then come back a bit stronger. But I don't know about you guys and what you think about that.
I mean, I must admit, I haven't watched Olsen, like the games that Olsen's featured in. I just, for some reason, haven't watched those ones in full at the time, if you know what I mean. But I remember when we signed him, I did do a bit of research on him in regards to what he's like as a keeper. And he's on loan from Roma, I believe.
Roma, yes.
Is it? Yeah. And before that...
Cagliari? Or was he... No, sorry, is it Roma? I'm not sure where he's on loan from, actually.
So I think he was playing from memory. I mean, I read this at the start of the season, but they were saying, they were talking to a Spanish correspondent because he was previously a keeper for a sort of average Spanish La Liga team. And then he went to the World Cup with Sweden and performed really, really well. And that's what got him to Roma. But they were saying both at the Spanish club and at Roma, he does have, very similar to Pickford, like glaring errors in his game on a regular basis. So this is where my sort of retort has been to some people in certain groups and forums and stuff who have been saying, Olsen's definitely better than Pickford. It's like, okay, you're right. He hasn't set a foot wrong. I can agree with that. He hasn't made any howlers in the 4 games that he's played. But probably if you looked at Pickford's first 4 games for us, he didn't make any howlers either. So you got to judge it on exposed form. So granted, I agree, Pickford needs a rest. I'm just not certain that Olsen is the answer that everyone thinks he is.
Oh no, I would completely agree. I would probably, unless they're absolutely terrible, like a Stefan Vessels or a Jan Muka or someone like that on the bench. I'm only saying, I'm not really sord of bearing Olsen in mind here. I'm just saying for Pickford,
whoever is the second keeper,
time away from the spotlight. I'd even ideally I'd want Virginia to come in and just give the kid a chance to come through if he's going to be ultimately the one to take over. Although it seems like he was 4th choice, now he's been bumped up to 3rd with Losel leaving. But yeah, I'm not really thinking about Olsen. Yeah, it's only been 4 games, and from what I've seen, I just think it's not a bad idea because we've got him coming in who can fill that gap. That Pickford will leave by taking 3 to 4 weeks out to get himself in the game.
Yeah, and I agree. If it's a rib injury as well, he may actually be out for more than the 1 game. I mean, we've got a game tomorrow, and then we're only on 4 days later against United.
Well, even minor rib injuries take a good 3-4 weeks to recover from, especially when a keeper is going to have to dive and twist and turn. And
that's right. Yeah. I mean, if he has to go out like that and land on that rib area, it's going to sting.
So whilst getting an injury, never good, and if anything, sometimes it can be counterproductive to your well-being and things like that, your mental well-being. I mean, it may be this gap has come at a good time.
Yeah, definitely. I'd probably say it's 1 or 2 games too late. Probably after the Leicester game would have been the perfect time because I feel like he didn't do too much wrong against Newcastle. But yeah, definitely it's not going to hurt to see what Olsen can do. And it may just. I think if we want to put a rocket up Pickford, I think it has to be. Hopefully Olsen doesn't put a foot wrong in the few games that he gets. And when Pickford is fit, he still starts on the bench because he hasn't been good enough. That's what would send a message to him, I think.
100%.
Do we have a score prediction?
2-2.
Yeah, I reckon 2-2. Tim?
I can't. I can't. Like my heart says that 2-2 is great. My head says that we'll probably lose 3-1. To be honest, you can only go off recent exposed form, and we played Newcastle, who haven't won in 11 games or something, had managed about 3 shots on goal during that 11 games, and hadn't won at Goodison for 9 years as a club. And we're on a high. We're aiming for top 4, and they do us 2-0. So I mean, Leeds by that, if you set that as your benchmark, then Leeds could do us easily 3-0, 3-1. So I mean, as Nick said, we had no. You're right. I think we had 1 shot on goal, which was Richarlison in the first half when he cut inside on his right, and it wasn't really that threatening. I think the keeper saved it pretty easily. Other than that, it was a pretty abject performance from us. So I just don't see. Something's going to have to change massively in this Leeds game. I guess the only positive is they're not going to sit as deep as Newcastle did.
I was going to say,
so
Leeds
hopefully there'll be goals.
Leeds are in complete opposition in the sense that they're going to try and attack us. They're not going to sit. They don't know how to sit back and defend. Newcastle came with 2 banks of 4. Steve Bruce grind out a result. They came up against a really blunt attack in what we put out there. Leeds are going to come out and attack, and that could work in our favour. And I do think that this will be a perfect time to play the 4 at the back that we had, with Godfrey coming back in, with Dina as sort of makeshift left wing back. And fingers crossed that sort of style of play can get a result there against a more attacking side, as it did against Leicester.
Yeah, and I think one other thing as well is, to be honest, for the last probably 6 weeks that we've played, we've ground out some really good results against, Wolves, Leicester, the draw there, the 2-1 win over Arsenal. But that's what we've really done. We've ground them out. I don't think I've enjoyed watching us play. I don't think there's been much fluidity or creativity in a lot of the games that we've been playing. I don't think they've been fun to watch.
Yeah.
So, maybe the shackles can come off a bit against Leeds, hopefully, because they are a bit more open than other teams. But yeah, at the moment we're not fun in the way we're playing. We're not exciting, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And now, to go with not exciting, we're now not getting results. Against Newcastle anyway. So it is hard to predict a win for us tomorrow, but obviously I'll still get up and hope for the best.
Yeah.
And just to finish off, the pressure is on, I think, tomorrow, probably more than we care to think about, because United away is next after Leeds.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I think we've got to pick up a win somewhere between one of them two to keep our European hopes alive anyway.
Okay.
So Champions League hopes alive.
Yeah,
yes.
True.
Yeah.
Well, talking about our earlier form, let's just summarize and just talk about how we're going as a whole these days. Started so well, got into a bit of a rut, came back around Christmas time, I would say, early Jan. And then, I don't know, we're just sort of, the team's just sort of, stuck in the mud or something. And the attitude of Richarlison, I don't know what's going on with him. But, Tim, what are your thoughts on the team and how they are now?
I mean, look, I'll definitely, like a few of us were saying on Monday, take me back to those first 5 weeks when we were top of the table and Spirit of the Blues was number 1 in the charts and Howard's Way was number 1 on the bloody movie charts. And, that was great. And, we were playing some great stuff there as well, like basically up until the derby. We were great to watch. We were banging in goals for fun. Then after the derby, it sort of got a bit more difficult because we had some injuries and some suspensions. Because, believe it or not, Liverpool are not the only team who gets injuries.
Really?
So, yeah. And we didn't really have that same sort of core team together as what we had in those first sort of 4 games where we were going really well. And I think we mentioned a couple of times on this show that there were a few games where it felt like Ancelotti was putting square pegs into round holes, like playing Godfrey at left back when we're having Konku there and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So some of those games didn't go to plan, and then we've ground out some results since then against some better sides as well. So I mean, the positives are obviously, I mean, look, at the moment it may be a struggle to find them just based on what we've witnessed over the last few games. I mean, the form of Richarlison is becoming concerning, almost to the point where I wonder if a Barcelona or a Real Madrid or something came in and made an offer for him in January and we knocked him back. I feel like we would have heard about it, but I feel like he's kind of playing like someone whose big move wasn't allowed.
He's very sulky. Yeah, he's just
upset and I mean, he
everything.
always does sort of have that look on his face, but it seems worse at the moment.
Yeah,
I think he's always had a bit of narc in him, and this is what I still love about Richarlison is he is a sulker and he is a moaner. Sometimes, yes, that can not present very well as a fan. It can, but I think I'd like to think of it as he's just frustrated because the quality of the play, even if we have been grinding out results, doesn't really allow for him to shine. He kind of has to generate a lot of his good moments come from himself generating it, and I think.
Yes,
I think now when that's not coming off, when he's trying to go at a player and he gets tackled, 2-3 times in a row, or he gets kicked over, or whatever it might be, that's probably the frustration coming out. And he's probably looking behind him and think, I'm playing with Gylfi Sigurdsson. Fabian Delph's in the squad somewhere in the treatment room.
Don't laugh. I think Ancelotti said he'll be in the squad for tomorrow morning. So.
Oh God. Yeah, and all that sort of stuff. And he's thinking, do I really need this? I'd rather be on the beach in Sao Paulo or in Barcelona. I'd like to think not, and I really do hope he gives us another year. He's only 23, 24. And I think he could do that, especially under Ancelotti. But it is becoming concerning, only because he's so important to us, and him not playing well means that we really don't fire. So
yeah. And I think Dom's form has dropped off a bit as well. And I know that sort of comes with the whole team's form dropping off because obviously he relies on, he's become that fox in the hole, that striker that Ancelotti has been in since Ancelotti came in. You stay in and around the penalty box. So if the ball's not getting there, well, he's not going to score, is he? But on a positive note, as I mentioned at the start, we are in the stage of a complete rebuild basically under Carlo. I do still think we have the right manager at the helm. And hopefully he stays for, the full length of his contract and takes on the project over the 3 or 4 years. And just to put it into a bit of perspective as well, we've played 19 games this season. And we've got 33 points. At this same stage last season, we had 22. So we're improving. Wow.
So we have improved,
by about 4 wins. And I think, we all got a bit carried away, I think, during that period at the start of the season.
You miss it.
All that. And I think our expectations were a little unrealistically high at that point.
Yeah.
And I think now we're just finding out where we are.
And we all needed something to just get behind and be happy about, because I think at the time we were in lockdown in Melbourne.
And that's right.
Needed something to, I don't know, just to latch onto. And maybe that, I think, I know it sounds really cliche, but I think this whole coronavirus is just, you sort of latch onto things and you try and make the best out of something. You try and find something to remain positive. And unfortunately for us, that thing that we latched onto and got positive about was Everton. Who inevitably will end up letting you down at some point. But no, I think if I'm going to grade the season so far, I'd give it I'd probably give it on reflection a 7. It feels like a 5 or a 6 at the moment. But I think if we look at, as you mentioned, the points to games, the wins that we've had, the points that we've ground out occasionally, then I'd say it's probably a 7. And we're always going to have games like West Ham at home, or a Leeds at home, or a Burnley away, or a Newcastle at home, or a Newcastle away. There's a fair few there. Where it doesn't quite go to plan. We've got that in us. So I think that's inevitable. I think if on reflection, I think it's a 7. But it doesn't probably feel that high at the moment.
Yeah, look, I'd probably agree around that 7 or 8 mark. I think, a couple of points you made there were good, Nick. And definitely, let's not forget we have had some players out for extended periods, some important players like James, Richarlison, Digne, Allen. And we have had to, shuffle the deck to put a team out there that can grind out a result. And the football might not have been as flashy. But also, I think that, I guess the most disappointing thing has been, this is such a weird season in general in the Premier League, where like United, 5 days ago can lose to Sheffield United and then go and beat Southampton, who were top of the table, 6 game weeks ago, go and beat them 9-0, It's such a weird season in that regard. And I think there's been moments where the cards have fallen in our favour in a way, in that, if this team loses and then we beat a Newcastle, we can go clear third. I think it was only last week before the Leicester and Newcastle game, and I said to you guys, we've got 2 games in hand, and if everyone wins their 2 games in hand over the next couple of weeks, and we're all on the same points at the top of the table there, we would have only been 3 points off City at the top. And then instead of getting to that, we lost to West Ham, we drew with Leicester, and we lost to Newcastle with a win to Wolves in between. So I think that's the main thing that we can see clear. Got some great players in the squad, but there's still that age-old thing of when there's something to play for, we bottle it. Yeah. And there's not even fans there to say it's the fans' fault. You know what I mean?
It's the mentality that transcends throughout the club. Yes. And I think, as you mentioned with the rebuild, there's still some of those players and some of the deadwood out there that are from that era. And I think hopefully James and Richarlison and those players who are winners their sort of attitude can transcend throughout the club, because it's not just players on the pitch or even the coaching or the management staff. It's the whole club as a whole is used to bottling it and not making that next step. And you're right, it's very frustrating when we get a good result like away at Wolves and we set ourselves up for the next sort of step, and then you sort of fall away, and we're perpetually going to just fall short. And I think it's going to take another window or 2 to get rid of the players that need to be gotten rid of and get a couple of Carlos in and get that winning. Carlo Ancelotti's won Bundesliga's, not La Liga's, Champions League, Premier Leagues,
FA Cups.
FA Cup. He's a winner.
Yeah.
He knows how to win football matches. And if we can get some of his players in, and it sounds like we've got the finance to now, then why not? But it will take time.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, for where we are, I think that inconsistency can still be expected to some degree, or the bottling it, call it that, or the inconsistency of, how we play can still, we're going to have to put up with that for, I guess, this season. I guess what I'm trying to say is my expectations have now definitely been dampened since the first 4 weeks. So now I'd be looking at, realistically, I think we're good enough to challenge for Champions League.
Yeah.
A spot in the top 4, but I would take the top 6. Because that shows improvement at least.
Definitely.
And then improve on that again next season.
Alrighty. Well, let's wrap it up there, guys. Thanks everyone for joining us. You can catch us on all our socials at Toffees Victoria on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitters. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Tim.
Cheers.
Come on, you Blues.
Come on, you Blues.